we'll get this party started. This is South Washington County Telecommunications Commission, Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, 7 o'clock. We're at City of Cottage Grove Council Chambers. Call the meeting to order and get a roll call.
Commissioner Polta.
Here.
Commissioner Downs.
Here.
Commissioner Wilczek.
Here.
Chair Bloom.
Here.
Commissioner Date.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Also present is legal counsel Michael Bradley, technical manager Lonnie Garland, and myself, Ann Schweisguth, content manager.
Sounds good. Do we have a quorum?
We do.
Moving along, moving on to approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Agenda's moving on. Move on to consent. Looks like only one thing's on it. Looking for a motion to approve consent.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All's in favor? Aye. Consent agenda moves on. We're on to reports. Staff. Ann.
Yes, I emailed out a report, and I'm just going to highlight a few things on that tonight. We are almost down to our final candidate for the government producer job. We had 56 candidates, and we're now narrowed down to 3. Final interviews will be next week. So we are very excited about that. Lonnie and I met with City Woodbury to talk about Woodbury Central Park and that move. We need to get some information back about construction and design, and once we get that back, we'll have a further report, but that is moving. Great news, the franchise has been signed by Comcast and returned, so that is filed, and we'll start making sure that that's being followed through with. Anytime I see a W, I say Woodbury. Wisconsin Community Media asked me to speak at their annual conference in Eau Claire, Wisconsin in May. I'm going to be discussing how to work effectively with city departments, area nonprofit organizations, and other sources of local media to produce relevant content for our community. So that should be fun for me. Woodbury Community Expo is going to be Saturday, April 6th, from 10 to 3 p.m. at Woodbury High School. This is kind of a different location for the expo. So we're excited that we're back to the Woodbury Community Expo this year. Every other year we switch off between Cottage Grove and Woodbury. So this is our Woodbury year. I put a handout in front of you tonight. It is a one-pager from MACTA about the legislation. And it's a really great, quick look at kind of our funding situation and what is kind of being proposed to help that. There's going to be a MACTA Day at the Capitol on February 28th, and we'll be talking more about all of these things. Any commission director is welcome to come to that, so if you'd like to attend, please let me know. We'll also be at the Capitol that day doing some podcasts with local legislators in our Capitol Conversation podcast. We're working with Hall of Fame radio host and Woodbury resident Freddie Bell, so we're excited to meet our legislators and talk to them. And I'm going to hand it over to Lonnie because he has some exciting news about the radio station.
Yeah, I get to do the honors on the radio station. So we just got notice from the FCC that the LPFM was granted to Woodbury. So the next steps will be a couple of things. We'll have to call letters and do some engineering and that kind of stuff. We'll probably work with Prometheus still on those issues. There's some stuff to work out there. Working still with Cottage Grove to get a letter to the FCC to finalize that. We had to have some documentation for the FCC still, so we'll get that turned in and see where that goes. So hopefully that one comes through too. So then we'd have the 2 local stations to, simulcast meetings or whatever we really want to do. It's kind of nice to have that as a hyper community focused media. So that's the exciting news. It's really cool actually. So.
Great.
We'll stand for any questions.
Would that be an FM radio station then? Or?
It will be, yep. It'll have a 3 to 5 mile radius of the tower. So if you're, it's not really a bad thing, but if you're in Cottage Grove, you'd have to turn the dial to whatever that frequency is. And if you're in Woodbury, you have to turn it to that frequency.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, they're different you know, but it,
nice.
just set it as a preset on your car and you'll be fine. So that's all I have.
Great, very good. Thanks. Move on to legal. Mr. Bradley.
Good evening, members. My legal report is in the packet. Wanted to highlight just a couple of things. Not everything was in the legal report because some things are breaking news, as it were. The 2024 legislature has kicked off, and you'll recall that last year, this commission, along with a few others, got together and got some legislation drafted and introduced to help fund local access stations like the one that you operate here with South Washington County. That bill has since been converted from a tax bill to a fee bill. And that bill has gotten a lot of support from the League of Minnesota Cities and MACTA. The bill has been introduced. It is Senate File 3930. The authors are Senator Mitchell from this area, Senator Zhang, Senator Rest, who's the president of the Senate, and Senator Klein, who's the chair of the Commerce Committee. It's been introduced and referred to the Commerce Committee, so we're hoping to get a hearing in short order in front of that committee. I do not know of the companion bill yet in the House, but I believe it should be dropped sometime very soon. The second bill that this commission worked on over the summer, and by working on it, worked with the League of Minnesota Cities, also worked with MACTA, and had legislation drafted, submitted to the revisor's office, and now introduced this week. It is House File 4182, the Equal Access to Broadband Act. This is an act relating to broadband franchising and granting authority to local governments to franchise broadband companies. As we've talked about in a number of different contexts, the digital discrimination docket, the digital equity work that the state of Minnesota is doing with the Office of Broadband Development, local governments can partner to make sure that broadband is served equally across entire footprints. And when you compare the different ways that communication services have been regulated over the years, when you take cable on the one hand, that was done by local franchising, versus telephone companies, which was done at a state level. The difference when it comes to the quality of service across a footprint is stark. And we saw that when we franchised CenturyLink. CenturyLink had to have a certain internet download speed to provide their video product, their cable product. And they couldn't do it in a majority of the areas. And you'd have one house that was eligible and one house next door that wasn't eligible. So when you're talking about being serious about making sure that you have equal access to broadband, same quality of service across your entire city, local governments should be partnering with the state and making sure that that happens. And by doing that, local governments need the authority to franchise. So both bills, I think, are important to this organization, but also to your member cities. They're incredibly important, actually. So I would encourage you to reach out to your senators and representatives and let them know that you support those bills if you do. Again, it's Senate File 3930. That's the access funding bill. And House File 4182 is the equal access to broadband bill. And that was authored by Representatives Freeburg, Stevenson, Tabke, Cagle, Kraft. It's been referred to the Agricultural Committee. Just a couple of other things. We completed our FCC advocacy on the 621 proceeding. We ended with a discussion with Senator Gomez, or excuse me, FCC Commissioner Gomez's staff. Again, we're asking for the FCC to amend what's called the in-kind rule and repeal what's called the mixed-use rule. And these are rules that you've been involved in for several years now, including litigation. And those conversations have gone very, very well. We don't have a firm commitment yet on when they might do that, but it was really good to educate the staff. Most of the staff members that are now working on these issues did not work actually on the original FCC order that this is all coming from. So they've all indicated thanks for the information. So I know one big thing that the FCC is working on, among many, but probably their top priority is reclassifying broadband from a information service to a telecommunications service. And I think that's taking a lot of resources right now. Anyway, that's another one. The digital discrimination order that I mentioned a couple, 3 meetings ago has been appealed by the telecommunications industry, and it ended up being in the 8th Circuit. So it was appealed in multiple circuits. When that happens, there is a lottery, and the 8th Circuit either won or lost the lottery, depending on how you look at it. So they'll be hearing that case. As a commission, since you participated at the FCC level on that order, you have the right to intervene in the case and file briefs, et cetera. I visited with Ann and Lonnie about that, and my recommendation was to not join in that effort, even though you do have the absolute right to do it, unless this body felt strongly about it. But in my view, there's a lot of other priorities, including the state legislature, that I'd rather see you spending your resources on. And then lastly, I was one of the speakers at a NATOA webinar on whether streaming services are cable services. And I spoke with Garth Ashpaw and Rick Elrod, and it was to a national audience, so it was kind of a fun afternoon of presenting. So that's my report, Chair.
Great, thanks. Any questions?
I don't totally follow it all, but how does the local government franchise tie in with this group? How would that work? Is it 2 separate things, or,
Well, right now, this group franchises cable providers, okay? Cable providers are also broadband providers. So, so there's kind of a natural connection. If your member cities decided to work with the Cable Commission to also franchise other services like broadband, but it would ultimately be up to your 5 member cities to decide to do that.
If the legislation passes, though, that it would have set like guidelines for how much could be assessed for franchising, or?
Well,
fees?
Thank you, Chair. And, I know this group's most interested in making sure that there's equal access to broadband across your entire footprint. But in consideration for the granting of the franchise, there could be a franchise fee. Right now, there isn't a cap on what the franchise fees would be. I would assume that all cities would be very careful on how they impose any kind of a franchise fee.
Thank you.
Sure.
Moving on to unfinished business. First thing we have is the interim executive director, assistant executive director appointments we discussed at our executive committee meeting a couple weeks ago of appointing Ann for 6 months as interim executive director while we go through perhaps either organizational structure analysis or a search for new executive director. And Lonnie is the assistant executive director. So, any discussion? Or did we do all that last couple of times? So,
How about the time limit on that? Didn't we talk about time on that, or
I think we said 6 months originally, so,
is that long enough? Think we'll get everything in order by 6?
I think it's a good starting point. We can always modify if we need to.
we can extend if we need to, or.
That makes sense, I think, yeah. Good idea.
Since I advocated for this, I will go ahead and move that we appoint Ann, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. Schweithuth. Interim Executive Director for a period of 6 months, beginning tomorrow? Yeah. And Lonnie Garland, Assistant Executive Director for a period of 6 months, beginning tomorrow, February 23rd, 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Further discussion? Motion passes. Thanks. Congratulations. Next thing we're going to discuss is the SWCTC organizational analysis. You should have all received a proposal from the Buskey Group, that from Sue Buskey out of California on 2 different stages. I had met with her a couple times now that we talked about last time is perhaps doing an organizational structural analysis prior to actually looking for an executive director, just so we have a better understanding of job roles and really the structure of what SWTC is, and maybe we want to make changes amongst that. And then the other second part of it is search for executive director on there also. And she did itemize it out into 2 different stages, and this is kind of an à la carte thing. I would think that some of the stuff is not quite à la carte, like travel. If you see travel expenses and stuff, those are actually, because she is in California, so she would be coming out here, or her partner would be flying out to meet with the commission directors, as well as, of course, staff, to do the analysis, so. Any discussion?
Would we be passing both parts right now, or just the first part?
My opinion be that I think we could break this up, the stage 1 really kind of sets the, the analysis for what do we need to be able to then know what do we, what position are we going out to, try and fill. So, yeah, I like how she's broke it out into the 2 different stages and that they're independent of each other at this point, so.
Right.
So, yeah, I think as a body, I think if we were to approve anything, it would just be the stage 1 analysis.
Yep. And actually Sue Buskey, that was actually her recommendation also. That way she also understands the commission better, understands the structure that's there. And you had met with Sue last week, I think it was.
Yeah, I had about a 30-minute conversation with her on the phone to clarify some things for her as well.
Yeah, because she's really interested in our strategic planning and everything like that, and the thought process that went through it, and all those things. So, but being able to build that analysis, and so we understand better, I think gives us a better idea of where we move forward, so.
Well, you might find out 2 things too. You might find out stage 2 could change depending on how stage 1 is.
Right.
And during stage 1, you can find out how this outfit is to work with.
Exactly.
It might be an outfit you don't want to do
Stage
do
2 is not
stage
even
2
needed
with.
at that point too, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or they might not want to work with us.
She was actually really easy to talk to, so she was super easy to work with, so. But so I guess, a little further discussion.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
We do have just an estimate here. Do we want to put a cap on that? So
That's a good idea.
we're approving this up to a certain amount, because we know travel and stuff can vary, but we don't want to all of a sudden get a bill for $6,000 over the estimate.
Delta One seats or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just a consideration.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, she might not rip us off too bad if she wants stage 2.
That's true. So do we want to set that stage 1 at a round number of no more than 10,000 or
Not to
something?
exceed, yeah.
I think we set stage 1 at no more than 8,100, which is our estimate, because I'm thinking that estimate was generous to begin with. She's an experienced consultant. She's gonna make sure that she has enough in there, and if she needed to make an addendum, I'd rather do that than,
Yeah, if we say
Provide
max,
flex.
if we say max at 10,000, the bill come at 9,800?
Yeah.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
It's quite possible.
But if you set it at 10, I mean, doesn't that alleviate the need for us to come back and take more action?
It does, but I think it's highly unlikely that they would go over the 1,800. I think they would be smart about the budgeting.
Yeah, because I think the estimate is due to that travel portion on there. But I go through here, and you can see the references.
I kind of agree with him, though. If you put it at 10, you don't have to have a special meeting or go through any extra stuff. And hopefully, if they want to do business with us, they ain't going to rip you off anyway if they're a legitimate outfit. You're not talking a lot of extra money there. I mean, in the realm of things. What, $1,900? I mean, that's not the end of the world.
Or what if we give approval to, sign an agreement with, not to exceed 8,100, but that that we agree to allocate, that it could go up to 10,000 if they come back with, before, they would never go over 8,100 without notifying us that their travel expenses are to exceed or
Yeah,
whatever.
without justification
But that
for
we,
it.
but we as a board are giving authorization to staff to, approve up to 10,000 for spending
I
on
like,
this.
I like
I'd be
that.
fine with
That makes sense.
Yep.
So then, staff would turn this into official, I mean, this is, right now, it's just a quote, but turn it into official, not to exceed $8,100 for the engagement. So I would put forth a motion to enter into an agreement with Buskey Group for a organizational structural analysis with not to exceed $8,100, and know that we've got a budget of about 10,000 behind that then.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? Any more discussion? Motion passes, and it's all you. Moving on, new business. Seeing none, we'll move on. Commission comments and requests. Anyone? Seeing none, we'll move on to the last one. Adjournment. Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Adjourn.